One of the most useful tools you can have when you're coaching is to video the athletes and video them when they're during the rowing stroke. What you can then do is take that video, play it back to the athletes before their next session or after the session they've just done, in order so that they better understand what they're doing. This next piece of video we have demonstrates a few particular angles that are useful to film from when you're in the speedboat. So I suggest use these bit of knowledge as best you can, and the more video footage you can give back to the athletes, the better performance you're going to get. There's no doubt that athletes, when they can see themselves on the video and understand what the correct stroke is, then it makes it a lot easier to educate them. If you can show them a piece of video of someone rowing quite well, particularly in the area that you're working on, and then show the athlete their footage, then with most athletes you'll find you get a very quick understanding. What I'd like to demonstrate here on the board is the best angles to video from in order to be able to demonstrate certain aspects of the rowing stroke. The most common one that we see, if this is a stylised boat and it's going that way, I've demonstrated on a sculling here, but the same principles apply to sweep rowing, and this blade's at the finish and this one's at the catch. So the logical way to video initially is in there. And so if we video directly from side on, be it here or here, and sort of move between those two places there, then you'll see the body angles, you'll see how people are coming off the back, how they're coming into the front, you see the ratio very well, how relaxed they are. Lots of good information comes from that side, and that's the most common one that people would use. The second one that's quite useful as well is straight on the stern of the boat. And so if you video the athlete looking straight up the boat, then you'll be able to see certain particular things stand out. For example, if they're uneven in the shoulders, if they're pulling more with one side than the other, those sorts of aspects really come to the fore. So, very important angle. The one that I like the best, but is the hardest to achieve, is filming from out here. Now, if you film from out here, firstly you have to be a long way away from the boat so that you don't wash them off, particularly if you're in a speedboat, of course. But what you can see here is you can see the blade entry into the water. And so you can see very clearly if the blade goes into the water like that on a downward angle rather than going in and getting clearly placed, then it's very obvious from that angle out there. If you can't do that, and often you can't, then the next best way to do it is to film from here. And so if you film from here, then what you see is you see the blade going into the water, but the bodies of other athletes tend to get in the way. Indeed, the body of this athlete will get in the way at the catch. So it's a little bit more difficult to do, but you can almost achieve the same effect as out here, although this one is really very clear, although difficult to get. But to finish, another angle that's useful, of course, is from this angle here as well, because then you'll be able to see the blade, how the blade's coming out of the water, and that's often a very useful one. And particularly if you're going for the catch again, another angle that's a useful one is here, so that you're lined up, correction that about there, so that you're lining up the blade with the body, with the athlete. And then you can see, if you watch the seat in particular, you'll be able to see the blade going into the water at the same time as the seat starts to move. And so if the seat starts to move before the blade's in the water and fully buried, then clearly we've lost some energy there, and we can do better to improve that. So they're the angles that I suggest that you look at next time you're out videoing. And then when you're dealing with a crew boat, then a couple of other angles are really quite useful and indeed very important to get right. Now, here I've demonstrated with a stylised version of an 8, or the centre part of an 8, and the green being the oars. Now, as you can see from this, the angles aren't the same. I've put them all at the finish just for convenience, and the angles aren't the same. Now, you can tell that fairly easily by looking from this sort of angle out here. So if you look in from there, then you'll be able to see what the angles are doing, and at the catch, of course, from out here, or indeed from behind again, like I demonstrated a moment ago. In order to get the angles right, then the easiest way often is to set them off the finish so that you get the finish right, but then there's an argument about whether you should have them set together at the catch or at the finish, and I won't go into that at the moment. If you want to get them right, then the way to get all of the angles correct is to change the oar lengths and the spread, or the span of the boat, in order to make sure that the angles are all correct. And the best way to do that and get it so you can see it other than by measurement and observation is if you can film from above. So if you can film straight down onto the boat, then you'll see it very clearly. Obviously that's not very easy to do in a lot of circumstances, although if you can film an athlete, a crew going underneath a bridge, for example, that's a very convenient way to do it. if they do it at speed, because their length is likely to be different when they're rowing at speed rather than rowing light. So I suggest have them, if you can, row under the bridge at speed. Be careful to be safe. Under the bridge at speed, film them from above when you think you've got the angles right, and it'll be very clear if they are. So just a couple of tips for how to get the angles right in a crew boat. The easiest way to start, as is one of our other videos demonstrated by John Dreesen, is to have the athletes sit with their bodies vertical in the boat, with their legs flat, and just see what angles, and their arms out, just to see what angles the blades are on. And if you've got them roughly right like that, then that's a really good place to start. So following here, we have some video footage of crews, athletes from various angles, so that you can see the aspects that I've been demonstrating here.
So first things first, let's sit at the finish with our arms straight out in front of us, sitting straight up tall. So you're straight up, a bit more forward. All right, now if you have a look at that, I mean, this boat hasn't been set up, but there's a quick rule of thumb. If you do this exercise before you put your crew on the water and you see that they're all square and parallel, you've pretty much got them in the right place. So at the moment, Lucy needs to go backwards a little bit. A lot of people do, you know, get the front, check your length, sit at the back, check at your length, but there's a dynamic feel in all of that. So you can actually get them close by doing that, but when you actually start rowing, some people actually row longer and shorter and you probably don't get it. So, you know, there is always going to be a starting point. It can be that, or it can be something quite as simple as that.